Now let's talk about China. This week, Beijing launched a charm offensive. Their premier was dispatched to Davos with a delegation of 140 people, including 10 state ministers. Their mission? To woo the biggest business groups in the world. Davos is a mountain resort in Switzerland. Every year it hosts the World Economic Forum, where world leaders, top economic minds and policymakers, and the rich and powerful gather. They exchange their thoughts on the world economy and debate some of the biggest challenges facing the world. So this event is like speed dating, but for the global economy. And China wants to court all kinds of suitors. The Chinese premier has been busy. He began his engagement at Davos with a speech. Li Qiang had a simple message to deliver: China is open for business.
China will adhere to the fundamental national policy of opening up to the outside world, and the door of opening up will only open wider and wider.
Well, after the speech came the handshakes. Li met top business leaders, including the CEOs of top banking institutions, the likes of JP Morgan, Bank of America, Standard Chartered and Blackstone. The Chinese premier had lunch with them. Same with the politicians. Li's most significant sit-down was with Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission. The two leaders spoke about trade, among other things. Now, this is quite a shift. Since the pandemic, Chinese leaders have been largely evasive, especially their president, Xi Jinping. He has missed several important events last year, including the G20 summit in India. In fact, he still does not travel very much. But his team is now coming out in full force, and in that sense, Davos signals a shift. China is trying to achieve two objectives here. The first one is related to their economy. They're trying to build a new narrative, one that is less negative and more positive. Because today the Chinese economy is seen as weak, unstable, and in a state of decline. At Davos, Premiere Li gave a different message. He claimed that China's economy did better than expectations last year.
Our expected GDP growth is around 5.2%, which is higher than the target of around 5% set at the beginning of last year.
A growth of 5.2% against a target of 5%. We're hearing this number for the first time. Naturally, it is being received with skepticism. Economists are questioning this data, which hardly comes as a surprise because data is not China's strong suit. But none of this has stopped Beijing from hammering its claims. The Chinese are determined to show that their economy has not stagnated. That's their first objective. The second is about fixing the larger sentiment. Investors do not trust China anymore. Until last year, foreign companies had pulled some $160 billion out of China. At Davos, Premiere Li tried to pull some of this money back.
We will also listen to the views of foreign businesses regularly. We will actively promote solutions as long as they are reasonable demands.
We hear you. That's what Li tried to tell foreign businesses. And this is a massive PR exercise to fix China's image. But this pitch has few takers. The first reactions to Li's speech are negative. Experts say his remarks are broad and unspecific. He's making wide-ranging promises, but not sharing any details. Like, how will China address the concerns of investors? What steps will it take? Li's public statements do not answer these questions, and the US is adding insult to injury with a resounding endorsement of India yesterday. It came from US Secretary of State Antony Blinken. He hailed India's growth story at Davos.
We see an extraordinary success story, and we see the remarkable achievements that Prime Minister Modi has, a relationship between our countries that is in a new place, at a new level.
Blinken's words reflect the broader sentiment. World leaders believe in India's growth story. China may have more resources and manpower to promote its agenda, but the world can see through its propaganda.